Hello, everybody, and welcome to another CLNS Patriots Roundtable. My name is Alex Barth, joined today by Mike Petraglia and Mike Alongi. Guys, we're about a month out from the draft here, month and a half, and the Patriots finally got active. We'll get into that as well as some other moves we think the Patriots need to make down the road. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Doing well. How you doing, Alex? Mike, good morning.
Very well. Good morning, guys.
So let's start with the big move yesterday. Danny Shelton, the former 12th pick in the draft, defensive tackle from Washington. Patriots acquire him in a late-round pick this year for a third-round pick next year. Trags, will just start initial thoughts. What did you make of the Patriots' first big move of the 2018 offseason?
I love it because Danny Shelton, feast mode, is a 24-pound, 6'2", 343-pound anchor in the middle of that defensive line. And he, again, is somebody he's young enough, you can move him around like Bill Belichick likes to do around the defensive line. He's not just going to be necessarily right over the nose. You can move off to the guard a little bit, and I think that's what they envision doing with Danny Shelton. Certainly, the youth. I can't, overstate the significance of getting a guy when he's only 24 years of age and really molding him into something that could really help the Patriots in terms of the depth along their defensive line. They already have the likes of Malcolm Brown in the middle of that line, and I think with Trey Flowers moving all over the defensive line, it's a good addition for the Patriots, and I don't think it cost them that much in terms of draft capital.
Michael Alongi.
Yeah, I mean, it adds a lot of depth at that position, the defensive tackle position, which is obviously good to see. Now you've got a really stout lineup of guys there: Lawrence Guy, Malcolm Brown, all these different guys. Excuse me. So it's a great move, and like Trag said, he's a big, huge guy in the middle. It's a Vince Wilfork-esque presence in the middle, which is great to see. It's a big part of the Patriots' defense, as all of us know. Not great on the pass rushing front. Obviously, he was a guy, Danny Shelton, when he came out of the draft, was a guy who they said, he can, really rush the passer from the inside like that. Not only 1.5 sacks for his career so far, but still, it's a guy who can definitely help in the run game, which is somewhere where the Patriots certainly will need some help. And now, obviously, it brings up the idea that you can use your draft picks or your other free agency moves and things like that to address other issues on the defense, such as the pass rush or the secondary, the linebacking core, whatever you want. So, yeah, I think it's a great move overall, and you can't really complain too much when you get a guy like Danny Shelton, as Trag said, 24 years old, big body, talented guy to be in the middle of your defense like that.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, I'm going to interject. I didn't mean to suggest that he's going to be a defensive end like Trey Flowers rushing the quarterback. That's not what I meant. I just meant he provides a little bit of versatility, over center and over the guard. That's, where he's going to be asked to do the, Wilfork around. For the most part, even though he's a nose tackle, Belichick loves to get versatile and get creative with his tackles so they can't be as predictable along the defensive line. And I think Danny Shelton kind of fits the mold here.
The thing for me with Shelton, and I like the player, I like the move. We know how they value guys often at their original draft position. So to get a guy who was taken 12th overall for the third-round pick, that's a no-brainer for Belichick. But I'm not thrilled that that's the position they're worried about right now. I know that they're focused on other issues, but for that to be the first move.
Yeah, guys.
And what I like about this, and you guys mentioned the depth, is maybe now one of those defensive tackles becomes expendable. You guys talked about having Malcolm Brown on the inside, Vincent Valentine, Lawrence Guy. I wonder if a guy like Malcolm Brown, who is due a sizable roster bonus on May 2nd, is in the last year of his deal and is going to want big money next summer. I wonder if that's a guy that becomes expendable. If Danny Shelton is worth a third, Malcolm Brown has to be worth at least a third, maybe a second, or even possibly in a player-for-player swap. They can use him to improve at the cornerback position, maybe grab a tackle if Nate Solder leaves, something like that. So I wonder if they're done tooling around at that interior defensive line position.
Well, I wouldn't worry too much about what the Patriots are worried about at this aspect. They don't look at it like a fan, right? I mean, they don't look at it as like you, me, or anybody out there rooting for the New England Patriots. They see a need, they see the opportunity to get this done, and they get it done. It doesn't mean that there aren't other priorities that they're going to address. Secondly, I think you bring up a great point about Malcolm Brown, as the Patriots are always forward-looking in their team building and roster building philosophy, and certainly if he's due a big roster bonus, and if they have any inkling from his agent or otherwise that he's going to demand a lot of money, and they don't feel that he is worth the value that he is going to command on the market, this is insurance against that. I think that's
the one guy for me who kind of put me in that mindset, and I forgot to mention I was listing off their depth on the interior, was Adam Butler. He was a guy I thought was one of their best defensive linemen this year, an undrafted guy out of Vanderbilt, incredibly athletic for a guy his size. And I think him and Malcolm Brown in some ways play the same role. So if you can have a guy who's making, I believe it's under $1 million a year on his UDFA contract in Adam Butler, why would you keep Malcolm Brown around when you now have Danny Shelton, you're going to have Vincent Valentine coming back from injury, and Lawrence Guy?
I think it's also decent to point out that the Patriots did also get a draft pick out of this as well, which was something that, Bill Belichick likes to squeeze those extra draft picks out of guys. It's an extra 5th-round pick. Belichick likes to mess around a lot in that 4th, 5th-round area.
Yes, he does.
So that's probably as big a part of the deal as the Danny Shelton thing was getting that extra pick. You give up a pick in 2019, but still you grab that extra 5th-round pick is a pretty big deal as well.
That's a great point, Mike.
I want to remind everybody that this roundtable is brought to you by DraftKings. Use promo code CLNS at DraftKings.com on your first sign-up. It's also brought to you by RXBar. Go to RXBar.com/CLNS for 25% off of your order. Well, the Patriots were busy acquiring a defensive tackle. One of their other free agent targets, supposed free agent targets, got away. Richard Sherman. He signed a 3-year deal with the San Francisco 49ers yesterday. So Sherman now off the market. Talib now off the market. Malcolm Butler's now the biggest name corner left out there. At least it seems like that. It's him and Tremaine Johnson. A lot of people are wondering, what are the Patriots going to do with that second cornerback position? Now, I've said on the show before, I think Josh Norman could be a fit. Maybe that's where a Malcolm Brown trade comes in. If you're watching on YouTube, go back and watch the first part of this roundtable on the CLNS YouTube page. We discussed that. But Patriots are going to have to get creative here, whether it be in the draft or via trade, to bring in a corner to play opposite Stephon Gilmore.
Well, I love the drama that's building here, and I also love to watch people panic over all of the names coming off the market. Guys, we've seen this movie before, right? Where we think that the popular name on the market is the one the Patriots are targeting, and then they come out of left field and get somebody at the last second. Now, that's not to say that in the past names like Darrelle Revis haven't eventually landed on the Patriots roster, or Stephon Gilmore, as was the case in 2017. But the Patriots always seem to be thinking outside the box, and for the most part, it works out for them. They also feel very, very strongly, and I know this, that Eric Rowe is going to be a big part of their plans going forward, and they're not going to overpay. So what this tells me, if you're reading all of the smoke signals out of Foxborough so far, is that maybe they look for somebody in the draft who can come in and fill the depth chart from the back end, or even the middle part of that secondary roster pool, and they'll be fine. That's maybe the way I'm reading this right now.
Yeah, I personally thought that Talib would be the more likely of the two rather than, Richard Sherman. I just thought Richard Sherman would eventually make too much money, and it turns out he did, because, $39 million over 3 years was much more than I thought that he would get, and certainly much more than I thought the Patriots would pay him. So I guess not surprising to see him go. And, we also saw Demarius Randall get traded to Cleveland Browns, so there are many cornerbacks that are in the league now that are already on the move or staying put. I agree with Trags. I think that the way to go is to go into the draft and grab a lot of guys. I mean, I closely watched the scouting combine, the corners running around out there, and there's a lot of talented guys this year. I think it'd be a really good idea to draft and develop. There's obviously a lot of guys coming back. We forget about Cyrus Jones, who going to be coming off an ACL injury, Jonathan Jones, who was injured late in the year. All these guys, in addition to Eric Rowe, who the Patriots think will make a big contribution. So I don't have a problem with the Patriots kind of standing pat, so to speak, at the cornerback position. I think that linebacker is a much more significant area of need. I think that that's where they should maybe focus the higher round picks. But if you're going to tell me that they're going to spend maybe a third or a fourth rounder on a talented corner to draft and develop, I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah, and I do too. And not to interrupt, guys, but Jonathan Jones, that point, Mike, is a great one because they love the speed of Jonathan Jones. Not only can he play special teams, but he came in and before he got hurt, played a lot of star slot corner, and they were very impressed with him.
And Mike, you brought up a great point about Sherman. I didn't see the Patriots paying that guy $8 million a year. I never thought Sherman was a fit in New England. We talked about it last week, and I know everybody thinks just kind of the aura around him, he'd be a great fit with Belichick, but he's one of the least versatile defensive backs in football. He can't really play man coverage. He can't play on the right side of the field. He's very good, but he's very good at one thing. There's not much you can do with him. Belichick doesn't have much to do with players like that. The one reason I'm hesitant about the draft, guys, at least taking a corner early, if you look back at Belichick's history about bringing in rookie cornerbacks, no corner he's ever taken in the first 2 rounds, unless you want to count franchise tag, no corner Belichick has taken in the first 2 rounds has ever seen a second contract with the team. For the most part, they've all struggled with the exception of Asante Samuel. But again, he had that one contract, had to hold out, was franchised, and then left. Where Belichick has had success with corners is in when he goes and gets somebody undrafted. You look at a guy like Malcolm Butler. You look at a guy like Jonathan Jones. You look at a guy like Crevon LeBlanc, who has put up decent numbers with the Chicago Bears, a guy I think the Patriots should have kept 2 years ago. Bill Belichick, for all the talk about him struggling to draft wide receivers, if you go back and look at it, I mean, Rozai Dowling in the second round. Jonathan Wilhite was a guy who could never stay healthy.
Darius Butler,
who has somehow put together a 10-year NFL career, but it's on the Colts, so I don't know if that counts. He has really struggled picking defensive backs, especially early in the draft. So, look, if they want to go after defensive back in the draft, that's fine. They need to, but I would be a lot more comfortable with them making a trade. And frankly, if there's 2 corners coming into camp, a guy taken in the second or third round and a guy taken day 3 or undrafted, given Belichick's history, I'm looking at those 2 guys equally based on what he's done. Maybe I'm a pessimist. I like to think I'm a realist, but when it comes to the draft, Bill Belichick with corners, in my mind, is the same or as concerning as Bill Belichick with wide receivers.
You know, I speak almost disparagingly of Darius Butler. I bet the Patriots would like to have Darius Butler back on their roster
absolutely.
right now. And certainly the reason I bring that name up is he was one of the guys that I think they really looked at into developing into a type of shutdown type of corner, or at least a very reliable, consistent cornerback, the kind of cornerback he's, as you mentioned, Alex, turned into in Indianapolis. But certainly the Patriots have to do a better job of developing their homegrown corner talent now. If they are not going to commit to the free agent or trade market, they're going to have to do it from the inside. And I think, as I said earlier, they have a lot of confidence in some of the players on their roster that maybe on the outside people don't think so highly of, aren't flashy names like Jonathan Jones, but maybe we should pay a lot more attention to.
Again, this roundtable is brought to you by DraftKings. Go to DraftKings.com. Use the promo code CLNS when you sign up for a discount. Also by RxBar. Go to RxBar.com/CLNS for 25% off your purchase. Well, the Patriots need some help on the defensive side of the ball for sure at corner, but they have some problems on offense as well. It's Alex Barth, Mike Petraglia, Mike Alongi with you on a Patriots CLNS roundtable. And all of a sudden, the talk has kind of crept up that Nate Solder may not be protecting Tom Brady's blind side next year. Brady's only had two primary left tackles his whole career, and Matt Light and then Solder. He's been a valuable piece for a couple championship runs in New England, but now it seems like there could be a big market for him. I saw a tweet the other day. I forget who it was his NFL beat writer. It said Nate Solder, teams view him as the only tackle on the market you bring in to even compete for a starting job. Nobody else even competing for a starter right now. So, we kind of thought it would be a team-friendly deal for Solder one more year. He'd step away from the game. There was some speculation he would retire and not even play next season. Now it seems like he could be elsewhere. Gut feeling, guys. What do you think? Is Nate Solder back next year? Trags?
I'm going to give you one name that really comes up when I think of Nate Solder, and that is Andrew Whitworth. What he got from the Los Angeles Rams, and granted now, understand that Nate Solder's 3.5 years younger. Andrew Whitworth last year at the age of 35 signed a 3-year, $33.75 million deal with the Los Angeles Rams. That's the kind of money that Nate Solder, I think, is looking at. And the reason I bring up Whitworth is he was essentially the only big name left tackle on the market last year, and he left Cincinnati and made a fortune for himself. And look, maybe Nate Solder keeps his family here in New England, and keeps Hudson, his son, under the care of Children's Hospital here in Boston, and all of the medical facilities like Dana-Farber that are available to him in Boston, and makes his money elsewhere and is able to pull that off. And maybe who knows, maybe the Patriots did as well. But I still believe deep down that the Patriots are going to find a way to get it done with Nate Solder. But the longer it goes on and the more the pot riches, the less that becomes a likely possibility.
Michael Alongi.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming down to crunch time here, kind of. I think I certainly thought that they would have signed him to, like you said, I thought it would be a 1-year deal. I still think it might be a 1-year deal. If they're going to give him 1 year, maybe they'll give him $10 million for 1 year. Who knows what they'll give him, but I think that it would make sense to re-sign him. I mean, if you look at, the top 2 ranked offensive tackles in the NFL right now this offseason are Nate Solder and Cam Fleming, and they're both on your team. So you need to do something here, and the rest of the guys on the list are kind of, getting older in years. They're over 30, most of them over 32. So I think that, Nate Solder is as good as you're going to get, unless you're going to go out and draft somebody, and you're going to have to draft somebody fairly high if you want a talented tackle. So, yeah, I think that it would make a lot of sense to go after Nate Solder and get him, whether you have to pay him, a 1-year deal, or if you're going to give him a 2-year deal and then say, hey, you can decide if you want to retire after this upcoming season. I think it makes a lot of sense to keep him. And coming from me, that says a lot, because I've been a Nate Solder detractor for some time. I've had issues with his play in the past, but I think that, like I said, he's probably as good of an option as you have right now, and I think it would make a lot of sense to bring him back. Not to mention the family dynamic. I think it would make a lot of sense to bring him back.
And guys, before we leave, I want to mention one name, Antonio Garcia.
Garcia. That's what I was about to ask you about, actually, Trags. He kind of mysteriously disappeared last year, NFI list. Worst case scenario, Solder doesn't come back. Can he step in and play left tackle?
We might find out in training camp. We might find out before that. We might find out in OTAs and June minicamp going into training camp and see if he can handle it. And if they feel like, hey, this is the new guy, and he's smart, they might have no other choice but to go with that. It'd be interesting to me, guys, if they don't give him that 1 year, really rich contract that I think you mentioned, Alex and Mike, would be a possibility. They may go in that direction. I don't want to see them taking Orlando Brown based on what I saw at the Combine. That was pretty disastrous. And he, at best case scenario, I think at this point, is a developmental project, and I don't think the Patriots want to do that. I think they want, I don't want to say a sure thing, but as close to the surety in that offensive line as they can have.
Again, this roundtable is brought to you by DraftKings. Go to DraftKings.com. Use the promo code CLNS for a discount on your order. It's also brought to you by RXBar. Go to RXBar.com/CLNS for 25% off of your order. This is a Patriots CLNS roundtable. Alex Barth, Mike Alongi, Mike Petraglia joining you as we inch closer and closer to the draft. Guys, last week we talked a lot of quarterbacks, and that is the big talk of this draft, not just in New England, but Patriots have other needs. There's other exciting players out there. So Combine's done now. I know we all said last week we're big Combine guys. So who stood out? Give me a name or two that the Patriots may be looking at, early round, late round, offense, defense. Just somebody, to throw in the prediction machine that when we come back on at the start of May, you can come on and be, I got it. I told you they were going to take him.
Mike, why don't you go?
Sure. Well, I'll give you a couple guys. I'll go one corner and then two linebackers, even though they kind of play different linebacker positions. Okay. Kevin Tolliver out of LSU, a guy who is a big body, 6'2", over 215, 220 pounds. He's a big corner. Might end up getting moved to safety eventually in his career, but he's a big guy. He was one of the higher ranked cornerbacks coming into the season. Had an off year, kind of dropped. He's right now projected a 3rd or 4th round pick. I think it would be a decent idea to go after him because I think that the Patriots in their earlier picks will go after someone similar to maybe a Rashaan Evans. I know Alex likes the name simply because it's an Alabama guy.
Not simply, but that is part of it.
And I mean, they have gone, early on Alabama linebackers in the past. See Dante Hightower, right? So I think that would be a decent idea. And another guy, Harold Landry. If they can get the BC guy, Harold Landry, 2nd, 3rd round projection right now. I think if they can get him with that, maybe at the 43rd pick, if he's around, I think a pass rusher like that might be a decent idea. So it's either going to be corner or linebacker, I think. And I think that those 3 guys are names to keep an eye out for.
Trax, how about you?
I'm going to give you 2 offensive tackles because everybody's concerned about Nate Solder and, the unknown about Antonio Garcia from last year. I'm going to give you Colton Miller, an offensive tackle out of UCLA, protected the blind side of Josh Rosen with the Bruins. He had a huge combine and set offensive record for offensive linemen with a 10'1" broad jump. That's some athleticism, guys. He also ran a 4.95 40 at 310 pounds. Again, how many times have we talked athleticism in New England in terms of offensive linemen? And I just like those numbers and the way his stock really rose at the combine. He's somebody to keep an eye on. And if this guy falls, and maybe wishful thinking here, Connor Williams, the tackle from Texas, inconsistent, but certainly had an outstanding 2016. He's somebody else they might take a chance on if he is available. Certainly, if he falls into the 2nd round, he's a guy that keep a really close eye on with the Patriots' early 2nd round pick.
And again, we discussed the Nate Solder situation earlier. If you're watching this on YouTube, you want to go back and find that. You can check it out on the CLNS YouTube page. 2 guys for me. I got one on one on one side of the ball. The other, you guys will have to tell me what side of the ball he's on. But first off, tell me if this sounds familiar. Projected 4th, 5th round pick, safety, extremely athletic, a little raw on the football skills, excellent special teamer, can play in the box. That sounds like a guy the Patriots are going to take in the 2nd round, right? I'm talking about Deshaun Elliott out of Texas. I love the kid's tape. He flies all over the field, extremely quick, extremely agile. He has a nose for the ball. He has good instincts. His coverage skills are lacking somewhat. He definitely is more of an in-the-box, strong safety than a free safety. He has the ability, if he can learn to play zone, to become a cover safety. If the Patriots took him even in the 3rd round, even late in the 3rd round, I'd actually be very happy with it. I think he's a guy who would flourish under their system. Mm-hmm. But he is a guy I could see them taking at 43, and that is way too high for him. So I like the player. Don't know if I necessarily like them taking him that early in the draft, but I would not be upset if Deshaun Elliott comes into New England as a late day 2, or definitely if they get him on day 3, I'll be thrilled. I think he's a guy who can succeed, and as Patrick Chung gets up there in age, he could be a definite replacement for Patrick Chung. So Deshaun Elliott, they call him the Joker out of Texas, and I'm going to give you guys I know the Patriots don't have a 7th round pick, but either a late 6th round or maybe even a priority undrafted free agent projection, and that's Joel Lanning, the athlete out of Iowa State. This is a guy, remember, he was a linebacker his freshman year, was a running back in high school, switched to linebacker at Iowa State, had a pretty decent year at linebacker his first year for the Cyclones, and then due to injuries this year, played quarterback and led them in the upset over Oklahoma. He was a dual threat quarterback, can throw the ball, can run a little bit. But again, was a linebacker at the beginning of the season. Had one of the highest GPAs on the team. I believe he was all academic in the Big 12. Does this not sound like a Belichick player to you guys? Like at all? Like it just screams Belichick.
How many linebacker / quarterbacks do you have out there? I mean, it's 100% sounds like a Belichick guy. I mean, it's first of all, just like you said, IQ wise. I mean, football IQ wise, the guy has to be off the charts if he's playing linebacker, which is kind of quarterback of the defense, and then quarterback. You know what I mean? It's a guy that it would certainly make sense for Belichick to take a flyer on someone like that.
I'm just saying he missed out on Keenan Reynolds. Yeah, go ahead, Trax.
No, I was just going to say versatility is everything to Bill, and what Bill really likes to do in the draft, as much as he's unpredictable, he likes to get guys who read the field in many different ways. It's not necessarily how much you can do, because I think Belichick feels his staff can coach you up to play the game the way he wants it played. The one thing that Bill can't coach is how these players inherently see the field. And when you're talking about a quarterback or a linebacker and guys that can do both and play both sides of the ball, that is something you can't teach, right? That is just the way they see the field inherently, and that's what Bill looks for.
And I'll say this about Lanning, too. Played some special teams, and I was just reading, I believe it was Bucky Brooks on NFL.com. They're saying he could make the switch to running back or even fullback in the NFL. So he may not be done changing positions. We know they need a goal line back. He's a big kid. So, again, Joel Lanning, Deshaun Elliott, Trags. You had Connor Williams, and I'm trying to remember the other tackle you had.
Colton Miller.
Colton Miller.
Out of UCLA, yes.
And then Mike Alongi had Rashawn Evans. You have to help me with the other two.
It was Rashawn Evans / Harold Landry with linebacker, and then Kevin Tolliver, the second at corner.
All right, sounds like Mike Alongi's mic is dying, and that's going to be as much time for us as well, so we'll step away. I just want to remind everybody that this roundtable is brought to you by DraftKings. You can go to DraftKings.com. Use the promo code CLNS for a discount when you sign up. Also brought to you by RXBar. Go to rxbar.com/CLNS for a discount on your order. If you want to listen to this full roundtable, you can check it out on clnsmedia.com. You can also check out the previous sections on the CLNS YouTube page. For Mike Alongi and Mike Petraglia, my name's Alex Barth. This has been another Patriots CLNS roundtable. We'll talk to you. I think we'll have one more of these before the draft. We'll talk to you around draft time. Thanks for watching, everybody.